every comic you've seen tonight. Please, a round of applause for everyone you've seen. What a wonderful show. We must admit, it has been a long show.
Yeah.
It's been very long. So please, a round of applause for yourselves. You did it. You made it to the end of the thing. I know how it feels to sit through a long show. It's hard to do. You know, I grew up sitting through long, long shows because I grew up in church. I know what it feels like to be like, okay. I went to church all the time because my dad was the pastor. And I became a comedian. It's basically the same thing. The only real difference is that I write my own shit. Like, he doesn't have to deal with hecklers either. That should be part of church. People yell at me all the time at shows. Seriously, every Sunday at least one person should stand up and be like, bullshit! But they never do it. They just sit there quietly like, this sounds like bullshit. I've always been a rebel when it comes to religion, you know. I admire people like that in history. Here in Germany, one of the great historical figures is Martin Luther. I love Martin Luther. As we all know, in 1517, he had some problems with the Catholic Church. He wrote them down and nailed them to the door. That is so badass. Not only did he start the Protestant Reformation, but he basically invented Yelp. That was the first Yelp review. It was. He nailed it to the door. Can you imagine if he wrote it like a Yelp review? Like, I was at the Catholic Church the other day and I was so disappointed. They turned a philosophy of love and acceptance into an ideology of fear and exclusion used for domination and financial profit. 1 star. A good Yelp review. But that's the thing is, like, we need these rebels. We need them to push society forward, you know? Jesus Christ was a rebel, right? Judaism was the prevailing ideology at the time. He came along with a new philosophy, challenged the way we think, you know? I was always told growing up that Jesus Christ was perfect. I don't think that's true. I think he just seemed perfect compared to the other people who were alive back then. Think about who was alive back then. Seriously, everyone was like, hey, we should throw rocks at this woman's head till she's dead. And then Jesus was like, maybe we shouldn't. And then everyone's like, whoa, this guy must be God. Do you hear what he came up with? Whoa, don't murder women. It's amazing. How'd you think of that? You must be more than a man. I went to a very fundamentalist Christian school in America. Young Earth Creationist School. They believed the world was 6,000 years old. That's the education I got. Yeah. I didn't even receive a sex education class. They didn't teach us about sex. They just told us in the Bible, it says to wait to have sex until you're married, and it also says, don't masturbate. That's a terrible combination. Can you imagine if everyone followed that? Just the chaos that would happen? You'd go to every bar and every guy would go up to every girl and be like, do you want to get married? I need to get married. Right now. I'm a little backed up right now. I gotta get it out. The only verse in the entire Bible about masturbation, it's in the Old Testament. I'll quote it word for word. It says, do not spill thy seed upon the ground. Who's jerking off onto the ground? That is a very specific rule. Was that a problem back then? Why did God have to tell us not to do that? Did God come down to earth like, my children, I have some rules for you? What is on the floor? What have you been doing down here? It's everywhere. What is this stuff? All right, put it in the book. These people need a rule, apparently. You guys are out of control. Noah, get in the ark. I gotta send a flood down to wash all this. Oh, I gotta make it rain for a while. This is not good. And so I make a lot of jokes about religion. And it's weird when people make jokes about religion, they say things like, well, going to hell for that joke. You ever hear that? People say, I'm going to hell for that joke. I think it's arrogant to think that jokes get you into hell. Like I show up in hell, I'm like, hi, I'm here to check in. They're like, who are you? I'm like, you didn't hear my edgy joke? They're like, this isn't a real place, how'd you get down here? That's right, hell's not real. People get upset though, I understand that. You know, I travel all over the country, all over the world now. This is my first trip in Europe, but I play a lot of shows in the Bible Belt in America, which is actually the whole country. People think this is a belt, no, it's the whole thing. But I've had people get upset. You know, I think the craziest tackle I've ever gotten, this woman in Missouri, she stood up in the middle of the show, she goes, I rebuke you, Satan. Yeah, she rebuked me. And a lot of comics would make fun of her. They would go after that woman. They would ridicule her. But I think that what she did is amazing. She thought I was Satan, and she did something about it. She spoke out against Satan. That's awesome. Because seriously, everyone else in the room also thought I was Satan. But they just sat there like, I guess we have to listen to Satan. We bought a ticket, so go along with Satan. Hear him out, whatever. I'm not religious anymore. I'm a man of art. I'm a man of science. You know, that's where I gain meaning from, you know. I think a lot of people think that if you move away from religion, it makes the experience of life less special, you know, because they think God created them specifically, you know. I think nature is amazing. Humans are very special, you know. We're very different from the other animals, you know. Did you know this? Did you know that human beings are the only animals that take other animals and make nuggets out of them? We're the only ones that do that. It's a very specifically human activity. Like, I totally understand animals eating animals. That makes so much sense to me. But to grind them up and make them into shapes, that's too much. Too extreme. Dipping them in ranch dressing, that's psychopathic. That's not okay. Sometimes we make nuggets in the shapes of dinosaurs. That is so arrogant. The former dominant species, we make nuggets in their shape. We're like, fuck you dinosaurs, we're in charge now. Sure, you ruled the planet for 150 million years, but then you went extinct due to a catastrophic environmental collapse that you didn't even cause, losers. Doesn't sound very dominant to me. You didn't even make yourselves go extinct. Can you imagine if other animals did the stuff we do? How insane that would look? Like picture this. Picture like 150,000 cheetahs invading Iraq. What if cheetahs did that? Now imagine if the cheetahs did it under false pretenses. You'd be like, not okay, cheetahs. That's the greatest crime of the 21st century right there, cheetahs. Not okay. Can you imagine if elephants burned fossil fuels? Oh, we'd be pissed. We'd be like, you're melting all the glaciers, elephants. They're like, we want to go fast. It's pretty sweet. Can you imagine if polar bears successfully operated a transatlantic slave trade, then carried out the genocide of the indigenous people of an entire continent, then erected an information distribution system and economic apparatus that encourages perpetual war, the infinite consumption of finite resources, and the full submission to your most selfish desires through the constant search after the manifestation of freedom and the ultimate expression of identity, when in reality it prevents us from constructing a sustainable system of sentient life on the planet and exploring the true nature of consciousness. I'll leave you guys on this. Humans are very interesting. I gotta admit though, I'm a little scared. I live in America. It's a very violent country. You know, there's a lot of things my country does that I'm not proud of, and I try to speak out against. You know, the United States has a torture program. That's something that they talk about on the news. You got caught torturing people, and there's actually a debate about whether we should do this or not. You know, it's insane. And actually, a politician, John McCain, he came out. He gave this great speech about how we shouldn't torture people, and I think we should trust him on this subject because he was tortured a lot in Vietnam. He was tortured so bad he can't even lift his arms all the way. I would use that in every speech I ever gave him. That could have been the whole speech. Just like torture. It has to stop. I mean, I have had it up to here.